2.4% inflation in 2026 can shrink the real cost of your fixed-rate debt. If you are working a normal job and already feel trapped by bills, that can mean your loan statement is quietly worth thousands less in real terms. Will you use that? Or will you fight the wrong debt? At 2.4% inflation, a dollar buys about 21% less in 10 years. If your fixed loan is 4%, the real cost is roughly 1.6%. That difference is where pressure starts to ease, but only if you stop treating every debt like the same emergency. In the next 90 seconds, you will get one simple equation that tells you when paying extra on fixed debt helps and when it slows you down. This is Wealth Mentor Pro, where every lesson is a step closer to your freedom. And by minute 6, you will have 3 rules to protect your cash, crush high-cost debt, and keep building stability using inflation to lighten fixed debt while you stay in control. I have stared at my own loan statements at 2 a.m. too. Inflation feels like a tax that shows up before you are ready. You see it when your usual grocery run is $12 more, when your rent climbs, when gas swings, and your paycheck does not. If you are low or middle income, that squeeze is not theory. It is your Tuesday. But here is the part most people never get taught. A fixed-rate loan does not rise with those prices. Your mortgage, an older fixed student loan, or a fixed car note, stays the same number of dollars each month, even while everything else gets more expensive. That is why inflation can be both painful and useful. It hurts the purchasing power of cash, but it also chips away at the real weight of fixed debt. Wealthy households tend to own things that can move with prices, like businesses, property, and productive assets. And when they borrow, they often prefer to lock a rate if they can. You do not need a high income to use the same math. You just need to separate fixed from variable and stop guessing. Start by writing down your debts and labeling each one fixed or variable. If you ignore this, you can end up pouring extra cash into a balance that is already getting cheaper in real terms, while a variable rate balance keeps tightening around your paycheck. So here is the first real question to hold in your mind. Which of your debts can inflation actually work against? Now for the one equation. Nominal rate is what your contract says. Real rate is nominal minus inflation. Think of fixed-rate debt like a weight that stays the same while the room slowly changes. Here is the concrete version. Say you locked a mortgage at 4%. If inflation is 3.5%, the real rate is about 0.5%. Just subtract. That is why paying the same payment can feel easier over time if your income rises even a little, because you are paying with future dollars that buy less. If that equation helps you breathe a little, tap like so it reaches someone else who needs it. Here is what a lot of debt videos get wrong without meaning to. They talk like a 25% credit card and a 3.5% fixed mortgage are the same kind of fire. They are not. Credit cards are usually variable rate, which means the cost can rise as conditions change. Fixed loans do not. That is why this matters for everyday people, not just finance nerds. About 92% of US mortgages are fixed rate, and only about 8% are adjustable. Take your biggest fixed loan and do a quick real rate check using 2026 inflation as a baseline. Start with 2.4%, then update it once a year. If the real rate is low, the urge to attack that balance might be emotional more than mathematical. If you get this wrong, the cost is real. You can become house rich and cash poor. You own an asset, but one surprise bill pushes you onto a credit card, and then the highest interest debt in your life starts growing in the dark. So the next question is simple. If you have an extra $200 a month, where should it go first if you want less stress and more stability? This exact logic shows up at a larger scale too. After World War II, US federal debt was about 106% of GDP in 1946, and it fell dramatically in the decades that followed. Growth mattered, budgets mattered, but inflation and interest rate conditions also reduced the real burden of debt over time. That is not a moral argument, it is math. And here is another calm point that keeps you grounded. For 2026, official outlooks are not predicting chaos. The Fed median projection has inflation in the mid-2% range, and other forecasters sit in a similar band. This is not about hoping for runaway inflation. It is about using normal inflation, 2 to 3%, as a quiet force on fixed balances while you protect your life. Before you do anything aggressive, set a safety floor. Build at least 1 month of expenses in cash, then keep going. Because one $900 car repair can become a credit card balance at about 25% APR. And then the math that could have helped you is suddenly working against you. So here is the next question we are going to answer with rules. How do you use inflation against fixed debt without doing anything reckless, especially if inflation cools? Here is the twist. The goal is not to love inflation. The goal is to stop fighting the wrong battle. Quick question for you. What is your biggest fixed payment each month? Mortgage, car, or student loan? Leave one word in the comments. These are principles, not personal financial advice. Use them to think clearly. Rule 1. Attack variable rate, high-interest debt first. The benefit is immediate relief. Every dollar you pay down can reduce tomorrow's interest, and it lowers the odds that one rough month becomes a long problem. Here is a concrete example. If your card APR is around 25%, carrying $5,000 can mean well over $1,000 a year in interest, depending on your exact rate and your payments. Make your payoff boring and automatic. Keep autopay for the minimum, then add one extra payment you can actually maintain. $25, $50, whatever is real for you. If you can, call and ask for a lower rate. It is not guaranteed, but it is a fair ask. And stop new charges while you pay it down, or the balance becomes a treadmill you never step off. Rule 2. Hold low-rate fixed debt when the real rate is low, and let time reduce the burden. The benefit is stability. You keep liquidity for emergencies, and you stop draining cash into a balance that inflation is already softening. Here is the concrete example again. A 4% fixed mortgage with 2.4% inflation is about 1.6% real. With 3.5% inflation, it is about 0.5% real. In that zone, paying extra can feel responsible, but it can be less efficient than building your buffer or eliminating variable debt. When people say silent default in this context, they do not mean missing payments or dodging obligations. They mean repaying with future dollars that buy less than today's dollars. Keep it clean. Never skip payments. Do not borrow more because you feel clever. Recheck your assumptions once a year. And if your fixed rate is high, or you need the cash flow boost of being debt-free soon, your priority can change. This is about reducing stress, not winning a spreadsheet. Rule 3. Convert the breathing room into net worth systems. Net worth means what you own minus what you owe. The benefit is that you are not just less in debt, you are more protected and more owned. More cushion, more assets, less fragility. Here is a concrete example. If holding a low-rate fixed loan frees up $150 a month, you would have thrown at principal, routed in order. First, finish a 3-month buffer if you are starting from scratch. Second, protect the downside with basic insurance and fewer avoidable risks that can wipe you out. Third, once you are stable, automate a small contribution to a diversified, low-cost, long-term investing plan. Broad exposure, long horizon, no promises, just consistency. Even $25 a week becomes a system that keeps working when motivation disappears. Now bring it back to that statement on the kitchen table. The filter is still the equation. Real rate equals your fixed rate minus inflation. If that number is low, you do not have to sprint at that debt to build wealth safely. You can pay it on schedule, keep your buffer, and put your extra effort where it actually raises your net worth. So basically, cheating does not mean skipping bills. It means seeing what inflation is already doing, then using it to crush high-cost variable debt, protect yourself from emergencies, and keep building. Inflation will do what it does, whether you like it or not. The question is whether you will let it reduce the real weight of your fixed debt while you build a calmer life. This is Wealth Mentor Pro. If this helped, give it a like and subscribe for more calm, practical money guidance. And when you are ready, watch the suggested next video to keep the momentum going.